We live a normal life. We have a beautiful little 2-year-old baby girl. Yeah, we're both pretty weird and love paranormal everything and are pretty alternative in style. But in this day and age, that's normal. Today was a typical day. Hubby kissed me and the baby goodbye this morning and left like he does every morning. Me and the baby go about our day playing and cleaning. We even decide to make Daddy's favorite dinner. He gets out at 6 p.m. and it takes him about 15 minutes to drive home. He usually calls me and we talk until he drives up. But today at 6 o'clock, almost on the dot, my doorbell rings. I peek and I see it's my husband. I open the door and greet him, telling him I didn't expect to see him so soon since he didn't call. He says, "Oh, I guess I forgot, honey." When he spoke, my skin crawled. I instantly noticed something was off about him. He was making me feel like he was a crooked painting on the wall. Unnerving. Not to mention, in our entire 5-year relationship, he's never called me honey. I'm just being paranoid because the night before we had watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and sometimes movies like that make me question my reality. "Can you let me in, babe?" he says, breaking my thought. "Sorry, babe." I open the door and he walks in. Instead of going to his usual chair to take off his work boots, he goes to the couch, which is weird. The baby runs out of her play area to do her and her daddy's little love game they do when he gets home. But when she gets 4 feet from him, she stopped and runs to my side. "Say hi to Daddy, sweetie." She hesitates and looks at me, but eventually says, "Hi, Daddy." He says nothing to her, just waves at her. "We made your favorite dinner, babe." I look at him with a smile. "Oh, what is it?" My husband is a big boy. He loves his food, and we both know his favorite dinner is meatloaf and my special mac and cheese. And my baby has never once reacted to her own daddy like that. I mean, they're best friends for God's sake. She waits all day to see her daddy. I put the baby in the high chair to eat, and I sit down next to her. He stays sitting on the couch, just sitting there with a resting smile, staring at the blank TV. I start analyzing him from my seat. Were his eyes always that dark? Was that what he was wearing when he left this morning? "Where's your keys, babe?" I asked him. "In my pocket," he replied. "Then why did you ring the doorbell instead of just coming in?" "I must have left them here." My mind starts railing. This isn't my fucking husband, bro. I don't know who this motherfucker is, but it's not the father of my child. I tell the baby that we have to go to sleep early because we have to go to grandma's in the morning, even though that wasn't true. I scooped her up and sheepishly walked past him to get to my bedroom. "Good night, girls," he says as we pass. Once I get out of his line of sight, I bolt down the hallway into my room and lock the door. The baby and I are watching a movie now. I just texted my husband's phone and say I love you just to see if he responds. Husband texts back, "I love you too, baby. Daddy will be home soon. We just had a lot of extra stuff to move over here. Give Bubby a kiss for me." I freeze as the realization of something pretending to be my husband is in my house. I'm in a room with no protection, with my precious baby, and the only thing separating us, and whatever that is a 1-inch thick flimsy door fully sets in. I texted him back, explaining somewhat that there's someone in the house and I can't call 911 for fear of him hearing me. It's currently 6:45 p.m. and I can hear police sirens coming closer, but I see him. I see his feet under the crack of the door. All I can do is sit in the furthest corner of the room behind my dresser with my sleeping child on my lap and pray that the cops get here before it decides it's going to do whatever it came here to do.
My sister is missing and has been for a month and a half. No one believes me, but I know my sister better than anyone else. Natalia would always crack a joke about how if she would go missing, no one would ever know. It pertains to how she never calls or texts daily. She lets you know about random mundane events weekly instead, bi-weekly if you aren't in her close social circle. It sounds like a dark joke to make, but Natalia always listens to true crime. She always told me that people always notice when their loved one is missing within hours or overnight. Natalia has never been much of a communicator, texter, caller. She doesn't like superficial conversations, so she only messages when she has something to say. When the conversation has run its course, you won't hear from her unless she has something else pressing on her mind. She's always said no one would know if she's gone missing. She would simply be gone. And those first 48 hours would slip through everyone's fingers because of her lack of communication. It used to be funny, but now it came true. I thought people would notice that Natalia's texts didn't quite sound like Natalia, or maybe they'd noticed instead of all lowercase she suddenly started using proper capitalization, or they'd notice that she wouldn't use our nicknames. Natalia talks to me the most, so maybe it makes sense that I'm the only one who notices the minor details. I tried showing my mom, but she'd only reply in a bitter tone about how Natalia doesn't talk to her consistently. Offhandedly, I remind her she doesn't reply consistently to anyone, leading my mom to reply about how she's her mother, so she should talk to her every day and abruptly hang up. I tried my dad next. Natalia has always liked my dad more than my mom, but she liked him more because he respects her space. He respects that she's busy, and she respects that he's busy. Even with a new wife and kids, he never treated us differently, so I had higher hopes that he'd understand. He didn't. He told me that my mum must have gotten into my head, but when I showed him the conversation, he said it was a little odd that she was texting out of character, but a text is still a text. So, it's only me who notices. I've been thinking about my first move of asking my mom and dad for their input. They live in different states than us. Natalia lives an hour away from me. What would they do from where they are? I drove the hour out to her apartment in a cute area of our city. Natalia gave me a spare key so I could easily enter without trespassing in the event she didn't answer the door. I hated sounding so negative during that drive, but if I believed she went missing, I needed to be prepared to do a wellness check. I know you might think, isn't that what the police are for? The police told me she may run away if she wants, and she's still answering text messages. They ignored the stark difference. They ignored everything I had to say. I'm stuck doing everything on my own. Getting to her apartment is nerve-wracking. Hands sweaty, constantly rubbing my palms against my jeans. I felt lightheaded. I remember feeling as if I was going to faint, if I saw something unsightly. I felt my heart thudding in my brain, loud and echoing through my ears as shallow breaths left my mouth, hand shaking as I turned the key, and with one last thick swallow, I opened the apartment door. It's hot inside the apartment. Natalia kept her air conditioning off during the day to save money for her bill, but it's never been hot enough to rival the temperature outside. I knew she hasn't been here in a while, but all of her belongings are still in the apartment. As I walked in, I noticed her phone charger plugged in by the blender on her kitchen counter. The fruit started to ruin in the bowl she kept on the bar. Dishes left in the sink's rack, and I noticed she had events written on her calendar that she marked as things she would RSVP to. I knew Natalia didn't run away. She had plans for the future she was going to. Everything else is seemingly untouched, clean, with a small layer of dust against the surfaces. I walked further into the apartment, into her bedroom. All of her clothes were still there. If an outfit was missing, I didn't know which one, but nothing was empty enough to say she packed and ran off. Even her luggage was still there, in her closet, empty. Her social security card and passport are in her nightstand drawer, just on top of her birth certificate. I called the police, and finally, I could fill out a report. I guess seeing no sign of a runaway besides a purse and car being gone is sufficient evidence to at least look into the case. They relieved me as the police questioned me formally. I showed them all the evidence and explained her daily schedule so I can explain why her purse and car are gone. They seemed to take me seriously, and I thought I could start plastering her face all over the city in flyers or even talk to local media. But again, I was proven wrong. Social media isn't lying when they say the police are a joke. Natalia didn't lie either when she talked about her true crime cases. They promised to look into it, gave me a case number and a phone number to call back on. I didn't hear any updates for 3 days, so when I called and asked, they told me they hadn't even looked. Even though by this time, she's been missing for 2 weeks. Meanwhile, I'm still getting texts from the imposter holding Natalia's phone, who uses proper capitalization and grammar. I check her apartment every day and watch the fruit ruin in the bowl. I searched our conversations for Natalia bitching about horrible police work. I remember she told me a family had to outsource someone or something else to help with their missing or murder cases. That's when I found a private investigator. My private investigator, Daniel Montgomery, proved to be way more useful than the police. Daniel started everywhere, leaving me to do the awareness work. The media wouldn't see me, however, since the police classified her as an adult runaway even though there's enough circumstantial evidence to suggest otherwise. My mom and dad took the police's side, saying she ran away since they still get the weekly text messages that comprise small talk and wishing them well. Both of them forget Natalia doesn't do small talk. I put flyers up anywhere I could until Daniel got back to me a week later. Natalia works at a customer service call center for a cell phone company. Her place of employment is nice enough to talk to Daniel. They were wondering when Natalia was coming back to work. They had called her for a week, but after her third no-call, no-show, they considered her unemployed. Her boss found it weird since Natalia has never been late, and when she was pulled over on the side of the road with a cop checking her license and registration. She had a ticket to prove her whereabouts 30 minutes into her shift. Her boss told the PI that she completed her last shift 3 weeks ago. She clocked out at 8 p.m. The next morning, her car wasn't in the lot. The PI asked if calls at the call center were recorded, and fortunately, the company was quick in getting the permissions and extracted all the calls from Natalia's landline for Daniel to comb through. The calls weren't interesting. Her customer service voice made me cringe as Daniel showed me a few normal calls, but tears welled in my eyes. I hadn't heard her voice in 3 weeks. It felt nice to know that it was Natalia instead of the dry texts that go unanswered on my phone. Daniel paused before the last one he showed me, reminding me he was showing me what a normal call looked like versus the call he was about to show me. Thank you for calling Cellular X. All calls are monitored and recorded for training purposes. By staying on the line, you are consenting to be recorded. An agent will be with you shortly. Hello, I'm Natalia. Thank you for calling Cellular X. Can I get your account number to get started? 325-698-74. Thank you. Give me a moment to load your account. Can you confirm your name for security purposes? Justin Ackerman. And the numbers on your address? 426. Thank you so much. How can I help you today? That's a brilliant question. How can you help me, Natalia? Well, I can absolve bill issues, change of address, service issues, or a poll down, logging issues such as report an error message or forgotten password, tracking a phone, ending an account, and more. Is there a specific reason you called? I called to speak to you. I kept getting other agents on the line, but finally, I got to you. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I'm confused. If this call isn't to service your account on Cellular X, then unfortunately I'm not able to help you. You never want to talk to me. You never reply. You never look my way, and I can't handle it anymore. How is someone who's always on their phone never texting? Don't you know how to text back, Natalia? You text your sister. What's her name? Marissa. How do you know Marissa? Who is this? Don't interrupt. It's rude to interrupt a customer. I'm Justin Ackerman. Remember, account 325-698-74 with address numbers 426. We should be closer. I'm in love with you, and you haven't answered a text from me in months. I text you every day, but I remember the day you blocked me or changed numbers because the blue bubbles turned green. I changed numbers? Is this? It is Justin Ackerman. You already know that, silly. Go on and end your call professionally. Would hate for you to get into trouble on your last day. Last day? End the call. Thank you for your call to Cellular X. If you stay, on the line, there will be a survey that takes roughly 2 minutes to complete your service today. Thank you. As you can guess, that wasn't the real Justin Ackerman. They found the real Justin Ackerman dead in the bathtub of his house. He was left to rot there for 2 months, but no one suspected a thing because he texted. Whoever this creep is who stalked Natalia is unknown. The police still think there's a runaway despite the obvious threat in the phone call, despite Justin Ackerman showing up dead under the same circumstances. They think maybe she ran away after being threatened or something like that. The PI couldn't get the phone records from Cellular X since they held those under federal grounds, needing a federal subpoena. There's only so much Daniel could do, but it meant the world that he even tried. I had nothing in our conversations about a creep who texted her. I'm glad I delete nothing. I have texts from Natalia dating back to 3 years ago when I got this phone. The only thing I have is a list of guys she went on dates with. It's not great, but it's a start at least. I narrowed the list with Daniel to only the guys she saw before she got her number changed. Natalia only met guys on dating apps and gave them her phone number if she got proof they weren't catfishing weirdos like a video on Snapchat or something. The list is small. Giovanni, Jason, Bryce, and Johnny. Only 4 guys in 2 years and 3 months. She didn't seriously date any of them, but I still could get their last names from conversations. Natalia always gave the last name before a date. Daniel went to talk to them, but nothing came of it. I'm not shocked. Natalia didn't say they were weird. I kept reading, searching, until a text came from Natalia's phone. I called Daniel immediately before I answered, waiting for him to come over. We answered them together, to ensure I said the right things, to extract information. I heard you're looking for me. You haven't been at your apartment for over a month. What if I went on vacation, met a boyfriend and took a trip? What if I went to visit family? What if I went backpacking across Europe? Or what if I just ran away? I'd still find you. I know this isn't Natalia. You can stop pretending to be my sister. This is your sister. I know you killed Justin Ackerman because he had a Cellular X account. Were you some rejected loser she didn't even tell me she went on a date with? I don't know what you're talking about, Marissa. I'm your sister. Besides, I don't tell you everything about my private life. Stop pretending to be Natalia. I heard the phone call. I heard you tell her it's her last day, and I heard you admit to stalking her. Scary phone call, wasn't it? It's why I ran off, and it's why I'm texting you now. Stop looking for me, or I'll come to find you. I didn't show it to the police. If I showed it, they would think Natalia ran away, and they were just now looking into her bank accounts. They haven't been touched for a month and a half. Natalia is still missing. I guess she was right. I guess no one really would know if she was missing. No one besides Daniel the PI believes me that she's missing. Mom and Dad have their head in the ground, living off those texts as a sign that she's alive. Her apartment gets cleared out next week. Flies swarm around the apples and bananas in the fruit bowl on her counter. I think I know who it is after reading enough into our texts. A guy that approached Natalia in a club, Henry. She told me he was clingy just before her number got changed. Daniel is looking into it now, but I'm not sharing this for awareness. What is a bunch of strangers going to do on the internet besides keep their eyes peeled for the news story that's never to come? I'm sharing this because this past week I'm getting texts from an unknown number of locations I've been to this week. Nothing else. Just shops, my job, restaurants. Sometimes the texts will say Daniel and I went to this place, or what I wore. I'm being stalked now. I tried telling the police, but they told me there's no funding to have a watch at my house. I got a text before I sat down here and wrote this all up. He told me I look cute in my pajamas, sitting on my couch, watching Natalia's favourite movie. I'm sharing this with you because if I go missing, I want someone to know.